So where we left off, I did want to thank for Microsoft Education Canada for providing and supporting this session for today. And what we're going to be covering is quite a variety of different things. We'll briefly touch on, in case there are some newcomers to Outlook, we'll touch on just a few tips and tricks and refamiliarizing ourselves with Outlook. And more importantly, how we can create folders, rules, manage our calendars and contacts, and most importantly, how we can limit some notifications as well. Because at the end of the day, I personally love having a zero inbox, unread mail, and I'm sure we all would potentially love to strive for that as well. So with everyone that is joining, there is the separate PowerPoint that we shared, but I would also like to ensure that we all have Outlook downloaded on our desktop, just because yes, you can use Outlook in the web, but the desktop app is much more powerful on both Mac and Windows. And if it is already installed, awesome. If not, what you are able to do is navigate over to the link on the web here, which is portal.office.com. And then you'll be able to click the Install Office at the top right. And what that would look like if I went into a different tab is I would simply type in portal.office.com. I'm already signed into this account, which is why I'm able to go, oops, wrong account actually. I'm already signed in, so I can quickly navigate over to my portal there. But if you haven't signed in, you might need to redo that as well. Just like that. And then you're able to go to the Install Office and download Office 365 apps. Okay, and I see, can I make this the screen bigger? Yes, thank you for that. I will ensure that when we jump to the demo portion, I'll try to zoom in a little bit more for everyone that is joining in. Okay, so hopefully we have either already begun the installation for Office or we already have Outlook. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up Outlook. I will exit my presentation, but you're more than welcome to follow along in your own copy of it. And I will jump to my own Outlook over here. Now, let's just see. Let's make sure. I created a little demo with myself that I'll be able to share. And the zooming in is working for the text, so hopefully we can see the reading pane a little bit better. Now, the first thing, before we even jump into any cool tips and tricks, is personally, I have pinned these tabs and all these ribbons on the top. What could be a likely scenario is that is not the case. This could be disappearing for some of us at home. I don't like that. In Outlook and Excel specifically, I like to have everything pinned. And so what we're able to do is at the top right, so we have the X in the top right, we have the different window icon and the minimize. But right beside the minimize, we have a display option. And so when I click that display option, we have 3 different settings here. The first one is auto hide, which will essentially hide everything. The second is to show only the tabs. So showing the tabs will eliminate that extra, the extra tools I had over there, and I can only see the home, the send, receive, the folder, and the view. Or my personal favorite is showing all the tabs and the commands. And so what this will mean is anytime I go to a different email, anytime I go to a different folder, this will always be pinned at the top for you. So you can pick your favorite. I believe by default, it should only show the tabs, but I think that's a pretty useful tool, especially if you're going to be working throughout the Office application as well. So now that we have decided, what our preference is, when we go to the top at our tabs over here, we can see the file, we can see home, and the send receive. Let's go over to view very quickly. And view will allow us to customize our Outlook so that we can use it a little bit more comfortably or the way that we prefer. So what do I mean by that? The first thing is we can change the view, the way that everything is presented. So currently I'm in compact view. So when I go to change view and I select this, I can go to compact. And so under compact, we can see that, I have all my different messages or my emails lined up on the left here. And then I have also a reading pane. I can change that to single, for example. So there's a little bit less spacing. There's a little bit more of a confined, and it will fit more emails in one go. Lastly, I can also change that to a preview. So it will show me the email, but it won't actually display a reading pane on the right. That will only happen once I actually double click and open up that email. So, personally, I like the compact view, but you're more than welcome to change that and to be able to, work with what fits best for you. Okay. The next thing is being able to show different conversations. So what are conversations? Essentially, if you're having a back and forth communication with somebody or a group of people, then being able to toggle this will allow you to list those conversations, the back and forth, in order. So let's take my first email over here as an example, and we'll use the toggle option, right? This little arrow will allow me to open up the entire conversation. So I can see I sent myself, a link on let's see how we can develop health and physical education, as that's something that I find interesting. I replied back about what a good time for a meeting is and anytime Wednesday. So I had a quick 3 email conversation that was listed in order. If I uncheck show as conversations, it will only show the incoming emails like that. So why is this useful, and how can this work for you? The reason why this is useful, and perhaps we've encountered it before, is maybe someone had sent a link or replied all, or for some reason you were left out of the CC, and you can't find that document or that link anymore as an attachment. Sometimes those attachments disappear through conversation or when somebody replies all. By being able to have a conversation intact, you can find the different attachments that might have been sent at any point. So it's a nice way to backtrack and to kind of remember where certain things might have been kept. The next really great thing that Outlook has incorporated is something that we like to call focused inbox. So I have this toggled on right now. And so I have focused, but I also have an other tab. So I don't have anything in my other so far. If I turn off my focused, it might resort, and some of us might be using this right now, it might resort to all, so every email that comes through, versus unread. So this is all right if you prefer working like that or having every email and you don't want to miss a thing. But the beauty with focused inbox is that using artificial intelligence, Outlook is able to begin seeing patterns in your work. Outlook is able to begin seeing the day-to-day of how you communicate with others and what is important, so that when an email comes through, it will filter it properly in your focused inbox versus in your other. What's an example of other? Well, if you're using Teams a lot and you're in a big conversation and somebody maybe @mentioned you. That would go into your inbox if you haven't toggled that off, and it would go into other, meaning that it's still in your inbox, but it might not be the priority to look at right now. And it might not be the most important thing to filter through at this time. And so that's how focused inbox can help you navigate and learn, what is important, and teach Outlook what is the best thing to show to you at the moment.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
So interrupt you. Shireen is just having a problem finding how you get your whole toolbar and menu bar in there. Can you maybe, sorry to go back a step, but just maybe go back and show her how you got that? She doesn't have file or home and then the whole toolbar there.
Okay. Not a problem. So potentially what might be the view is something like this. If you're not able to see your file and your home, if you're using a Windows device, then at the top right beside the X, there should be a little like a little up arrow, a little icon for your ribbon display options. And so selecting that and maybe choosing to show your tabs and commands might be the answer there. So let me know if that helped. And perhaps I'm not sure if you're using a Mac device, but it might be a little bit different under the settings there.
Yeah, she says she doesn't have that.
Okay. Well, I'll find a link towards the end, just so that shows and outlines the step on a Mac, and then hopefully we're able to share that towards the end, if that's right. Cool. So moving on with that. If you're using the web-based Outlook, yeah, then web-based wouldn't have that option. Right. Thank you. So moving on to the message preview over here. Message preview is another way that you can customize, the way that you're viewing your emails as kind of like an overlay. So at the moment, when I select it, I can see one line, which means that this is the first line of your content is ready out of whichever amount of lines there are. I can change that to 2 lines, for example, so that I get a little bit more of an introductory or idea of what the message is about or the email. I can change it to 3 lines just to have a little bit more spacing as well. So again, all of this that we're showing now is, up for your personal preference. I would just love to show, ways that you can customize to make your everyday life a little bit easier. Lastly, before we begin moving on, is that we have still under the View tab, we have a folder pane, a reading pane, and a to-do bar. So these 3 different panes or areas, essentially, we're able to navigate down and we can change the way it looks. So what I did is I went to folder pane and I changed it from normal to minimized, which means that I see a little check mark. Only my favorites are displayed here, but I don't see all of my other folders. So if you're looking for a more simple look, that's a great way to do that. Personally, I prefer normal, and I will be using this when we create a couple folders. Reading pane is this right here. It's where the message comes in. So I'm able to have it on the right, for example. I'm able to even have it on the bottom, or I can just turn it off completely, which kind of navigates your view back to a preview without actually selecting that. And lastly, your to-do bar. So you're able to set kind of little tasks and to do based off, where you're working or what you're doing. And so I can filter that through tasks, and anything I filter in the to-do will appear on the right-hand side. So whether I open up calendar and I can see, if there's anything scheduled, or even through people as well. Perhaps if I want to have like a quick contact. Okay, so hopefully, we learned something a little bit new there. Let's dive into, customizing our Outlook a little bit more and creating. Before we do that, I do want to give a couple seconds pause to see if there were any questions so far about anything that we covered, or if we're okay to move on.
Nothing has come up in the chat. I do want to put another thank you out there for everyone bearing with us and having patience in the beginning. But be sure to use the chat to let us know your questions, and I will try to politely interrupt Damien when we can.
Awesome. Thank you. So let's move on and let's talk about folders and how we can kind of plan and navigate the way that we create folders. So on the left-hand side, I have all of my different folders. We'll have quite a few different things already pre-created, pre-populated for your Outlook account, such as junk email, such as deleted items, great things like that. However, we're also able to create separate folders, such as the two I created here. Excuse me. So we have planning committee at the current moment, and I have stream notifications. What I had to do in order to create these folders is to right-click on the inbox, and I'm using a Windows device, and all I need to do was make a new folder. So, let's say I wanted to make something for the health and fitness course that I'm planning to create. I'm able to very easily navigate that. I can then right-click on that again and create a subfolder. So I'm able to create folders within folders in order to navigate and to organize my Outlook a little bit better. Now, bear in mind, however, let's actually finish making this subfolder. And let's just do nutrition. Bear in mind that occasionally, if let's say I had an email come in and it went into nutrition through a rule, which we'll talk about in a second, there will be a notification, but this needs to be open. I need to be able to see the subfolder in order to see that notification. So another way that it can be pretty easily searched is if you saw an unread email, but you can't find it in your focused or in your other tabs, it might be in one of your subfolders over here. And to get rid of a folder, let's say you made a mistake or anything like that, again, I'm just right-clicking, and I have these different options such as renaming it, maybe moving that folder to another location. I can also delete it from here. Now, if I am planning on having a lot of emails come into a specific folder, maybe it's a school announcement, or I have a lot of stream recordings, which is why I made one. But as I make more folders, this might be a little bit harder to track. I can pin it to my favorites at the top so that I'm always receiving and having that as close to me as possible. So one example would be maybe if you want to pin the principal, the vice principal, or a colleague as your favorite, and create a rule so that their emails pop into their own folder, I can make a new one. So let's make a new folder. I'll be chatting with Patty, who you'll meet in a second. I can right-click on Patty and add to favorites. Patty is now at the top here. So anytime I will receive an email from Patty, I can go ahead and change that so that it's right at the top underneath my inbox. And depending on how I prioritize my day or my things, that could be the most important thing for me. Okay, so let's go to home, because we're going to navigate to creating an email and how we can quickly find different people. So I went to my home tab. Oh, I see a question. How does the email go into the Patty folder? We'll cover rules. So in just a second, I'll teach you how to create a rule so that it automatically funnels into that folder. So bear with us. You're ahead of the game there. When we create a new email under home, I'm just going to select a new email. Now, let's say we're onboarding a new teacher, right? In this case, the name will be Kara, and they just got added to the domain. Let's make our subject welcome board. And if I've recently been talking to a few individuals, I can see them here. That'll pop up, and I think it goes up to 5 people, depending on how many people you talk to. I can even delete them if I don't like seeing that. But I have Patty here, but I need to send an email to Kara because when I want to be onboarding her, I just want to be polite. I want to create that e-introduction. So when I type in Kara, I can see that she pops up over here. But in a potential scenario where Kara isn't actually showing up, what we're able to do is, and I can't zoom in any further, but what we're able to do is once we type in the first and last name, we can go to check names. And that is found under the message tab. And when I check the name, it will scan that name inside of the directory of the organization or of the school board, and anywhere that the email is synced to. So it will scan the directory and it will automatically add Kara, in this case, as the recipient. So you might be introducing yourself or trying to involve someone into a conversation, but you never were able to catch their email. By being able to check names inside of your organization, you can quickly just type out their first and last name, and then quickly send them. I won't actually send this email, but because a lot of you are familiar with Alex, maybe we can try that. Awesome. So all I even did was type in Alex, and I think Alex is the only one in this organization, so there weren't duplicate first names. But I just typed in Alex, I selected check names, and it automatically found her. So I would be able to send an email to Alex. So now that we're kind of beginning and grasping our email, let's quickly type something out. And I want to bring up Patty in the conversation, and I want to bring her attention. So let's say, hey, Kara. Great to have you. I'll be helping you out remotely. I can say, as an example, Patty will send some documents your way. I can manually add Patty if I wanted to as a CC for her to be included in this email. So CC being that whoever is CC'd can see the email and is able to recognize and view all the content, but it's not necessarily directed at them, but it's good for them to have visibility. Now, the likelihood over Outlook that Patty will read through, and if it's a long email, the likelihood shortens, but for Patty to go in, read this email, and then see their own name and be like, oh yeah, I got to send those documents. It's a good chance, but it might not be the best chance. So what I can do instead is I can use the @mention. And so what I will do is I will use the @. I will select Patty, who will be automatically added in the to area. And then I'll write, can you please send the documents to Kara for. So basically, I'm able to add a specific person inside of the organization and bring their attention to that specific part of the email. So they can skim, through the whole email and then see the part that they need to see and then take action from there, which is really great. There are some, little tricks as well to try to grab their attention a little bit more, such as making the email as high importance. But in this case, I don't think that's necessary. I think just using the @mention is good enough. A cool thing as well is if you still wanted to keep Patty in the CC, you could just backspace and re-add Patty now. And the at mention still remains there. So now you're being a little bit more hygienic with your email, right? And putting people in the right places. But always, to be able to do that, always at mention first. And so basically, I see a question was notification or normal email. So an email, it'll be sent as a normal email. But what will happen is, let's just finish this. Thank you. Best, Damien. Let's send that. What will happen is right beside the message tier, the little at symbol will show up. So as a recipient, if someone at mentioned me, it will show me the at icon signifying that, hey, someone is mentioning you. So it will still show up as a regular email, but it will give you that extra prompt that your attention is needed here. So that is a neat way to be able to demonstrate that. And then you can always use the search function at the top to find those specific emails, right? So I can search specifically for emails from Patty, for example, which I don't have any right now. I can search for content. So if I went for health, it will find the email that has in the topic or in the subject matters health. And so in this case, it's the email or the chain I sent to myself. Another neat thing that I want to quickly bring up is BCC. And so we want to be careful with BCC because when you're sending an email, let's use Kara again as an example, and I'm CCing Patty. Kara, the recipient, will see that Patty is in the email, right? The whole idea is for Patty to be there for visibility. If I added maybe IT administrator, let's use check names. Okay, we have system administrator. If I added system administrator to the BCC, Kara can't see that. Only the system administrator can see the specific email I sent. So, you know, if I wanted to still bring attention, but system admin doesn't really need to be part of that conversation, I can BCC them. Or if I'm sending the same email to multiple people, I can BCC everybody instead, so they can't see the email being sent to other people, only to themselves. So just like another quick trick there. Okay, so the long-awaited rule. How do we create rules? And after this, I'll take a pause because there'll be a lot that we'll be covering, and I just want to make sure everyone is taken care of. So let's say all of these Microsoft streams. This is flooding my inbox, and to be honest, I could use it elsewhere. I would prefer my focused inbox to be on content itself. So what I can do is I can select this Microsoft stream email, and I'm going to click right click, or I'm going to right click, sorry. And from there, we have all of the different things that we can do with that specific email, such as copying an email, marking it as unread, but we're going to navigate down to rules, and we're going to create a rule. Okay, so let me walk through that again. I selected an email, and I right-clicked on a Windows device. On a Mac, it would be, I believe, Command click, and I went down to rules, and I created a rule. Now, this is where I can create rules for just about anything. I can have as many rules as I want. So in this case, we need to create specific conditions for our rule in order to put it in the right place. So I want to create a rule where every email from Microsoft Stream will go to my Stream Notifications folder that I have already created. You want to have this folder created before you create a rule. I can choose to select a subject, and it doesn't have to be this pre-populated subject. I can edit that and I can delete it. So for example, anytime the email even has this beginning phrase of your video has finished processing, I can limit it to that. I won't do it for now, but that is an option. And you can also set a condition of who it's sent to. So maybe if your school board or your organization sends kind of like a big wide email or follow up, you can change it to I don't have any of those emails, but it could be like all employees or all educators or something like that. You can change it so that if it's sent to everybody, I don't want to see it. But if it's sent to me only, I do. So you can customize that condition a bit. I'm going to uncheck that for this demo at least. Now that we've created half the conditions, we need to be able to decide where we're putting it. So, I have the option of playing a certain sound or maybe giving me an alert. So if I'm, let's say, working with somebody and I want to hear specifically that email come through, which we'll cover towards the end of the session, I can play that specific sound. But ultimately, the important part is moving the item to the folder. So I'm going to check that, and I'm going to click Select Folder. And I will select Stream Notifications. If this is your first time doing this, it will likely just say Inbox or leave it blank. So be sure to select the folder and be able to choose whichever folder you want. In this case, Stream Notifications. So let's pause and recap. I created my rule. I created a condition that any email from Microsoft Stream will be moved to the folder Stream Notifications. This is my rule. And I'm going to click OK. This is probably the most important part in regards to cleaning up your inbox. If you're on a mission today to walk out of the session and be like, that was awesome, I want to clean everything up, this will be crucial. Always select, if you want to run this rule now, for everything in the past and everything in the future, select Run this rule now. Otherwise, it will only take effect for anything in the future, but all of the emails currently in your inbox will remain in your inbox, which you'll have to then delete the rule and remake it. So select this and click OK. And look at that. All of my stream notifications have now gone into this folder. I didn't have a lot of them. I only had 4 emails, so it went relatively quickly. But if you've been working for months or years and you want to move a specific type of email, that could take just a little bit in order to scan through your inbox, grab all of that information, and toss it into the folder. I'm going to take a pause. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Awesome. A couple questions. Liana asks, she says, I've created favorites with 4 to 5 folders. Twice it's happened that they all disappeared. She has no idea where they went. Does this happen, or is it something she did by error? And then Patricia says that she's found that if you do the folders, any new emails that come in, the notification doesn't show up on your cell. Is there a solution for that? Those are the 2 questions we have.
Yeah. So in regards to the first question, where the folders tend to go missing from favorites, I've personally never encountered that, and I don't want to diagnose an issue that I don't have the full information or picture. It's important to note though that if there's a folder in your favorites and it gets deleted from your list of folders, it will likely get removed from favorites. So by deleting the parent or the host folder, it will delete it when it's in the favorite area. That's the only on the spot answer I can think of right now. Hopefully that answers that. And in regards to notifications, so towards the end of the session, I'll show you how you can create like a sound or an alert when a specific email comes in, which you were able to do if you actually set up the rule. So to quickly backtrack is, let's say I'll just create a rule with this email conversation I have. I'm going to create a new rule. I'm able to display a new item alert or play a selected sound as well. So yes, it doesn't show up as a notification in your phone, but there is still a couple workarounds in order to let you know that there's something in there.
Thank you. Couple other things just came up. Where is it? Shireen says for new mail, it'll appear in the inbox first or go to folder directly, I believe is what she's asking. I'll let you answer that and then I'll ask you the next one.
Yeah, so if you created a rule and you set the condition that it goes to the folder, it will automatically populate the folder. It won't jump into inbox and then revert back. It'll just go straight to the intended folder.
Interesting. So it skips the inbox.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Rajesh asks, how did you get the menu bar down the right side with the garbage can, reply arrow, envelope, etc.?
This menu bar over here.
Yeah.
I think that naturally changes depending on what kind of screen size you use. Personally, if I use a bigger monitor, it will show up on the top here. It could also be the version of Outlook you're using. So you might need to update Outlook. As I know that sometimes you're using a very similar client, but there's little finite changes that can happen between updates. And in order to do that, you would navigate to your file, and then it doesn't seem actually to be inside of Outlook. But let's say I go to Word. I'm just going to quickly open up Word. Inside File. Oh, actually, sorry. I remember now. File and Office account. Sorry about that. Then you can go to Update Options. And you can update your Office client. And that should be able to change it to this, if it's not already. Okay. Were there any other questions, or are we okay with moving on?
Well, a lot of people seem to be concerned about missing those emails because they go straight to the folders.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can address that and talk about how to get those notifications.
Yeah, well, so one way that you can essentially is similar to making that sound, right? So let's undo my rule. So I'm gonna go ahead and view folder, should be in home. Now, in this scenario right here, where I'm trying to find, rules, which happen to be over here, you can also use the search bar in order to find rules. So I can manage rules and alerts. And I have Microsoft Stream. So this was intended to be towards the end of the presentation, but since it's pressing at this point with a lot of questions, let's just cover it now. So I have my rules over here. And I can always create a new rule, and I can also do this for specific individuals. So if I wanted to create a sound alert every time an email from Patty comes through, I can do that, so that I can basically, trigger my brain to be like, oh, hey, Patty is reaching out to me. I'm going to select Microsoft Stream. And this is now where you're able to dive into how that is appearing to you. So essentially, we have all of these, different rules or conditions that we want to double check, whether that is, where it's sent to. Now let's look to see if there is something for a notification. Yeah, that's for folder. I guess in this case, I can also mark it as importance, but that wouldn't solve the notification. I can double check, or maybe if we can find online if there's a workaround for that. But to my knowledge, the the notification wouldn't like pop up on your phone or anything like that. So the way that I personally created my folders was that emails that I never really looked at too much, or they were automatically sent by the organization, I created basically dump folders for them to go to so that I wasn't getting notifications for those, which would in turn limit the amount of notifications I get regularly and only leave regular people that require me to respond as my regular inbox. So instead of maybe the way that we were presenting of creating a specific folder for an individual and having everything filter into there, you can kind of work the opposite way where you dump everything into different pre-made folders for things that aren't actionable or not on your priority list, and then keep the priority and the notifications inside of your main inbox as well as a way to filter that a little bit. So I did that personally at Microsoft, and it worked tremendously for me. Excuse me. But what we can do is when we send out the email with the link of the PowerPoint, just in case some people missed it, I'll do a little bit background work as well and see if there's a workaround and include that in that email, just so we don't take up too much time for the rest of the presentation. Okay, hopefully that's okay. Moving on to calendars. So hopefully we covered and learned a few new things about calendars, or sorry, emails. Let's navigate over to the calendar option. And I know we're running up for time just with a little bit. So Emily or Charity, let me know how we're looking for time, if we're still set to finish right at 2, or if we're going over a little bit, and then I'll try to show the easiest and most important things before that.
Well, we'll honor everyone's time.
Awesome.
So we have 5 minutes left.
Okay.
And if people do have questions at the end and you're willing to stay around for 5 minutes, it's kind of something that we can do.
Awesome. So navigating over to calendars, I can see right now that, excuse me, that I have a couple calendars made. So let's actually uncheck that. And, moving down to May, I created a few different things. It's important to note that there are 2 things that we can make. One is an appointment and one is a meeting. So when we create an appointment is made as like a block or a placeholder in your personal calendar for you. Whereas a meeting with somebody is intended to include other people from different areas, as similar to a Teams meeting, what we're using now, and insert that directly in your calendar. Right? Sorry, my voice is getting a little bit dry there, so I need a drink of water. But we can have multiple calendars. So, for example, I have a planning committee that I'm planning and will be including more people. And I want to eventually share that calendar out. So I made it ahead of time. Now, one thing I can do is likely the setting will happen is that when I select multiple calendars, it will display it side by side. So I can kind of get this top layer view of the month or the week, whichever way that I want to work. So whether it's a work week or just Sunday to Saturday, I can get that top layer view. Now, this might be a little difficult for some individuals as well, just because you have to look at 2 different calendars, make sure that it's syncing up. Under the second calendar, personally, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to select Overlay. So once more, under the second calendar I'm using, I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to select Overlay. And so what that now does is that it merges and squishes those 2 calendars together so that I can see that all in one calendar. So I can see my open house, which was from my personal calendar, but I can also schedule, parent-teacher interviews and review applications, which were part of my planning committee. So it'll kind of give me one calendar to look at. The one thing to, I guess, remember is it might be difficult to see, but it will bold whichever calendar you're presently in. So can hopefully observe that this little green calendar is a little bit stronger. But when I move to planning committee, it goes a little bit lighter, and instead this green pops up. That just signals the different calendars that I'm currently working on. Now, if I wanted to make a new appointment, I can simply double click on any day of the week, and it will automatically pop up to create a new appointment. I can also navigate under the Home tab to the top left and select New Appointment and start from there. Now, right before we conclude, we can also directly schedule Teams meetings, or if you have the Zoom plugin, you can schedule Zoom meetings. As long as you have those plugins and the emails connected, you can schedule it through Outlook. But if I wanted to make a new Teams meeting for Monday the 10th, I can select Teams meeting. Please note that you need to be logged into Teams for this to automatically generate in order to find that. And I can say, let's do a quick one-on-one with Cara and Patty, since we're working together. Now, maybe we remember, I'm going to go back to my email, this conversation I had. What's a good time for you to chat? And I replied with Wednesday works for me. If we want to begin limiting emails, that is a little bit redundant. I could have canceled that conversation from the first email I got and instead directly booked a meeting. But now, instead of going through the back and forth between what time works best for you, if someone is in your organization, and we'll do a quick one-on-one, Cara and Patty, I can use something called Scheduling Assistant. Let's actually turn off all day as well. And when I click Scheduling Assistant, it will look at the calendars inside of our Teams and Office account, and it will tell me which times are free for us. So it will block out when other individuals are free or busy, and it will signal in white that it's available. So I can directly look at the availability of other people's calendars and book accordingly with that. So 1 to 1:30 seems to work. And I can go ahead and send that. And it will automatically generate that Teams meeting. With, I think, 30 seconds left, if we want to free up our calendar in order to promote people doing that, for example, if this open house, I wanted to leave it, but I'm not personally taking part in it, I can right click on open house, go down to show as, and then select free. What this means is that despite open house having an almost all day block in my calendar, people are still able to schedule and it will show up as free inside of my calendar in order to do that. So with 2 o'clock being here, I'd like to thank everybody for bearing with us with our technical difficulties. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I know we weren't able to get through everything, but hopefully the link works so that you're able to look at what we would have covered a little bit as well, and some additional resources that I wanted to share, just to help out with some Outlook and tips and tricks. So I'm okay with staying on a little bit longer if anybody wanted to answer some questions, but I do want to thank everyone so much for your time, and I hope everyone has a really fantastic day.
Thank you, Damien. All right, so a couple things coming in at the end of our chat there. You'll see that Emily dropped a link to the feedback form. So if you wouldn't mind filling that in for us, we would super appreciate it. It doesn't take much time at all. Also, if you have any questions after this workshop, please feel free to send them to help@cobblestonecollective.ca. We actually have like team members, actual educators, teachers, people in the know behind that email answering your questions. And if we can't find the answer, we've got team members that we can reach out to get the answers. We also have the link to the resource dropped one more time for you there. We apologize for all the issues at the start. That was weird. Emily and I are still like gathering all the pieces that flew out of our minds. But we do appreciate you coming today and being here with us. Just a couple things I see here. Rajesh asks, is there a way to turn off your messages coming in without closing Outlook? And yes, there is, Damien says. So I'll let you answer that in 1 minute. The other one was, can I merge my iPhone calendar and Outlook? And
awesome. Okay, so let me quickly show, and I hope whoever asked that question is staying on briefly, but for anyone that does have that time, let's quickly show how you can do that. So it will be in the deck that I shared and that we'll send out following, but the way to turn off notifications or limit the notifications that come in is if you go to your file in the top left and go to options. So we have info, we have open and export, save as, all the way down at the bottom we have options. This looks a little bit scary. I sometimes still get intimidated by it, but we will go to mail. So the second tab over here, and right from mail, we can now go down to message arrival. And so message arrival, we can check or uncheck whether it plays a sound, whether it will create an alert for desktop or simply show like an envelope icon in the taskbar. So if you maybe wanted a less intrusive, arrival or anything like that, I personally like just having the envelope icon show up, because then even if I'm doing something else, I can see that on my taskbar. But you're able to check or uncheck, these different settings as well, and click OK. So that's how you're able to limit the notifications that come to you through Outlook. Sorry about that. And regarding I believe it was the iPhone calendar and Outlook calendar, I believe you could. I personally don't use an iPhone though, so I can double check just to see what the actual steps would be to link that. But what most likely would need to happen is you need to add your iCloud account or whatever account is synced with your iPhone calendar. You can add it inside of your desktop, so you have multiple email accounts. And then that way your calendar will then show up because you have that account there. So I hope that answers it. I can't demo that, unfortunately, just because I don't have an iPhone, but I will try to find that resource so that we can send it in an email and blast that out.
All right. And Rajesh just says, one more thing. I had sent an email during the session, but it didn't appear in your inbox. Was wondering how you did that. Oh, you must have answered it. Thanks for the workshop.
Awesome.
Thanks, everyone. We hope you have a great day.
And a great week. So thank you.